Hello, welcome to the Wordcaster channel. My name's Quentin, and this is my first YouTube video, so go a little easy on me. This channel is going to be about words, specifically stories. The stories we tell in books, audiobooks, movies, TV shows. Right now, it's really just audiobooks because that's what I've reviewed so far. I also have a website where I do this, quentinlauman.com. I'll link that below. But yeah, that's the general gist of the channel. I want to talk about the stories that drive us as people. So, in the pursuit of talking about words, today I'm going to talk about an urban fantasy series called Ink Sigil by Kevin Hearne. What makes it interesting? The protagonist, the main character of the story, is Al McVarish, which I probably shouldn't have tried to say like that. Sorry to all people of Scottish descent, including myself, really. But Al is in his late 60s and wants to retire from being a sigil agent. And a sigil agent is kind of like an Interpol agent wrapped up with a world court judge. And in this world of Kevin Hearne's, which is the same world that the Iron Druid Chronicles is set in, Al kind of operates as a contract negotiator and a judge and an enforcer of agreements. These agreements, these contracts, are with supernatural entities. What do I mean by that? I mean like straight up gods from all the pantheons, just very powerful magical supernatural entities, members of the Fae, Greek, Roman gods, Norse gods, all that stuff. They're contracts with humanity that say these entities cannot come down to Earth and just start messing around for funsies. Because you don't really want Thor or Odin coming down and messing with people just because they're bored. That will lead to bad things. So, that's a big thing that makes it interesting. The main character and what he does and where he is in his life. On top of that, Al has two curses that make it very difficult for him to retire. The first is when he uses his own voice to talk to people, they will eventually hate him. So the more you talk to Al and the more he responds using his own voice, the more likely it is that you will suddenly and vehemently loathe the man. You won't be quite sure why. You'll just think he's the scum of the earth. And that sucks, because Al only figures out that this is a curse after his son starts to hate his guts and he loses contact with him. And that's tragic. It's tough having an interpersonal relationship with anyone when you can't speak to them and they know you can speak. It's a little different if you just don't have that ability and people know that. But in this case, everybody knows Al can speak. Well, his close friends know he can speak. To everyone else, he says he has an impediment and uses a text-to-speech app. And he uses this text-to-speech app to communicate with most people so that he can avoid that sudden loathing. So yeah, that's one challenge he has in his interpersonal relationships. And another is every time he takes on an apprentice or hires somebody that works directly under him, they tend to die after a certain amount of time, usually by some sort of freak accident. His most recent apprentice died by choking on a raisin scone, which is just twisting the knife for Al because he will tell you that raisin scones are evil because only an evil, demonic soul would put raisins in a scone, at least according to Al. It's his seventh apprentice that has died under his watch through seemingly no fault of his own. So you've got a kind of 1-2 punch with this curse. He doesn't really realize it's a curse until later in the series. Not right away. He doesn't know that at the beginning of the book like he knows about the speech curse. So he's had to deal with the death of his 7 apprentices, and then later finds out that it kind of was his fault in a kind of indirect way, in that it was the curse on his head that led to their deaths. Now, Gordy turns out to be a steaming pile of trash human being, but that doesn't change the fact that he's had to watch these apprentices die and then realized it's his curse that drove those deaths. That's a lot to deal with. So, yeah. Is it a good book? Is it a good series, rather? I think so. Uh, there's a few potential gotchas, right? In the audiobook, which is how I consumed this particular book, the audiobook narrator, and I cannot remember his name. As long as I can figure out how to do it, I will put it somewhere on the screen. Somewhere. Over there, up there. Anywhere. I'll put it somewhere. I'll figure it out. Anyway, he tries very, very hard to nail the accents throughout the book. And to my untrained ear, it seems like he does a pretty good job most of the time. However, he's so focused on nailing those accents, sometimes the delivery comes off as a little unnatural. And that kind of harms the story a little. I don't think it's egregious enough to be a problem, and overall I really enjoyed the audiobook. So your mileage may vary, but I did note that in Goodreads and Audible, a lot of people cited the narration and the heavy accent of the protagonist, the main character, Al's Scottish accent that I won't try again. They cited that as a reason they couldn't get through the audiobook. So it might be a lot to handle. So if you're one of those people that is very sensitive to those heavy accents and that delivery within an audiobook, maybe you should pick up the ebook instead, or the paperback. Another potential gotcha is that it's Kevin Hearne. And if you've read the Iron Druid Chronicles, you know Kevin Hearne tends to meander his way through a narrative sometimes. He gets sidetracked and tells side stories. And he definitely does that in this series. However, I think it feels better and more natural in this particular series versus the Iron Druid Chronicles, because you've got a guy who's been doing a job for decades. And even though it's this extraordinary world where he regularly deals with world-ending problems, he's not bored per se, but he's used to it. The same way you adjust to your job over an extended period of time, it becomes rote, the thing you just go do every day because that's what you do. And when you get into that space in your regular job, it's easy to get distracted by life. You're doing something monotonous that you do all the time, and something interesting over here happens that reminds you of a past adventure, and you start thinking about it. And that's really what it feels like in Ink and Sigil, which to me makes Al feel more human. But it can also distract the reader, and it might drive some people nuts. So be warned. Me, I liked it. I think it added some genuineness to the character. One of my favorite things about the Ink and Sigil series is that it is done. It is 3 books, and that's it. You read book 1, 2, 3, you're done with the series. And in the world of urban fantasy, that's a good thing, and somewhat rare. Like, for example, I genuinely, for the most part, really like the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. But it's a huge series. And the last book is kind of, I didn't like it as much. I don't know what you were doing there, Mr. Butcher, but we'll see what the next one's like. Anyway, that's a thought for another video. My point is, most urban fantasy series, you have to commit to a lot of time if you want to read the whole thing. Some of them are 20 books long with side series that are set in the same universe, kind of like this one set in the same universe as the Iron Druid Chronicles. But you can read Ink and Sigil without ever having read the Iron Druid Chronicles and still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. You don't need to be up to speed with that world to enjoy the books, and that's awesome. So that's just a really nice bonus. My other favorite thing about this series is Lornog, the god of whiskey and cheese, who literally devours wicked men and just wants everyone to get along and doesn't really care what your beliefs are as long as the things you do and the things you believe do not hurt other people. And that's a beautiful thing. And at the beginning of the book, the god is just a made up god that doesn't really exist in this world where gods do exist. And I'm not going to say any more about it because Lornog is awesome. You'll see. So I recommend it. Ink and Sigil, it's a good series. If you're looking for something unique, you don't mind the occasional bit of potty humor, but told in a very eloquent way, and you don't mind the strong accent of the narrator, and you don't mind a little bit of meandering. That pause was totally on purpose, by the way. Yeah. So if you don't mind all of that, and urban fantasy is kind of your thing, and you want something with a unique take on that kind of, now that it's been around a while, trope-filled subgenre, I recommend Ink and Sigil. Let me know what you think. Have you read it? Are you going to read it? Do the YouTube thing where you like and comment. Subscribe. I'm new to this. More videos will be coming. Thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a most excellent day.